Намайг Батболд гэдэг. Тэгээд би та бүхэндээ өнөөдөр стартап үүсгээд явж байгаа. Томьёог мэдэх ахтэй, томьёо эддэг, томьёо сургууль. За сүүлд одоо бид нэр Droplock гэдэг Америкт бүртгэлтэй компани дээр хөрөнгө оруулалт босгоо явж байгаа. Тэгээд энэ хугацаанд дандаа ингээд хөрөнгө оруулагчтай уулзж байхад болж исэн бүтлгүүтлийн сторинуудаа ярих гэж байгаа. Тэгээ fuck up stories гэж байгаа. Тэгээд хөрөнгө оруулагчтай уулзаад бүтлгүүтсээсэн 20 түүхээ ингээд маш хурдан тэгээд маш үнэнгээр та бүхэнтэйгээ хуваалцъя гэж бодож байна. За эхэлцгээе те. Okay, so trying to raise fund for your startup is very much like dating. It's like you have to sell yourself when you're dating, but when you are selling your company, you have to do the same pitch to investors over and over again, right? And most of the time, you get an answer, no. So I'm going to talk about the 20 different investors I talked to, and all of them I got a no. And most of the times, it was me saying no to them as well. So let's go. Number one, the rich boy. There's always this one who probably comes from wealth, and this kid is 19. And he wants to invest in your company as soon as he hears the words, metaverse, NFT, or blockchain, right? But unfortunately, I'm too old for that, so it's a no. And then we move on to the one who knows it all. So this type of investors, they met hundreds of entrepreneurs like you, and they want to tell you 100 different reasons how you're gonna fail. It's a very discouraging experience. So that's a no. Number three, the college sweetheart. So this type of investors are your friends or your family, right? They support you. They understand your vision. They want to invest in your company. Unfortunately, they're just too poor, so that's a no. And then there's the artsy ones. As an entrepreneur, we think we have a vision, right? We're the visionary ones. We want to build cars, Teslas, right? And then you meet the artsy investors who tells you, can you build a flying car? And I'm like, I'm not sure if I can build a flying car, so that's a no. And then there's the nerd ones. So this type of investors are technical investors. They come from, they want to help your product. But as an investor, you want somebody who can take your startup and help you build into a business. Right, so you really need an investor who knows the business side of the thing, so that's unfortunately a no. And then there's the cheap ones. You gotta love them, because we think investors are rich people, right? They have money, that's why they wanna invest. But some of them, they just don't pay for their coffees or lunch or their hotels or the flights, right? It's very interesting. I mean, you're supposed to be the rich one here, So we move on. The one who's in love with himself. So it's really hard to get, time on an investor's schedule, and you get 1 hour meeting. And then this guy talks about himself for an hour. And I have to at some point raise my hand and say, hey, can we talk about the company? Give me 5 minutes. I listened to your life for an hour, right? Sometimes investors just want to talk about you. We're not a psychiatrist at this point. So, and then there's the ambitious ones. I think all investors are very ambitious, but some of them, they want you to be the next Google or Facebook. And we are just an ed tech company. We're never going to be Google, but they really want you to take, global level, the next level, but sometimes we're just not a good match for them. And then there's the players. Ooh. There's always the players. So this type of investors, they have this tag. They say they're investors. Then they go around all these fancy meetings and events, and they say, this is how I invest in da-da-da-da-da. But when you ask them, hey, what's the last, successful company that you invested in? And there's zero, because they really are not doing it. They're just playing the field. So they're not good investors for you. The boring ones are really funny, because in any relationship, you want to have a two-way street, right? You want to talk about your vision and your company, and you want the investor to contribute as well. But sometimes they just sit there and they say, everything is good, great idea, let's do that. But it's a two-way street. So you really want somebody who can contribute, bring something to the table. And then there's the one who's too busy. You gotta love them because it's like any relationship. The guy tells you he loves you, he likes you, he wants to marry you, right? But he has no time. He really doesn't meet you. So, you really need a proactive investor there. And then at this point, I'm meeting how many? 12 investors. This is the funny one. So we're in America meeting a lot of VCs. And some of them, just because they see me and they know I'm Asian, and they're like, okay, we want to invest in your company, but here's your go-to strategy, right? And they say, let's go to China, and then Korea, and then Malaysia. And I'm like, I'm Asian, but I really don't know any of those countries, So they really put you in a box, and I think that's not a good investor. And then there's one who's very clingy. So these type of investors, they hear your pitch, they like it, they want to invest right now, but as a company, you want at least 2 to 3 different types of investors in your company. And these guys tells you, hey, we want to take all the round for ourselves, and we're not going to work with any other investor. They're very controlling, so that's not a good sign. That's a red flag. And then we move on to the one who's got commitment issues. It's the opposite of the previous one, but it's funny because, they tell they love you, they like you, they want to marry you. But what they say is, unless there's an alpha shark or alpha VC who wants to invest in your company, we're just going to wait. So they're very much like passive investors. So we move on. At this point, we're meeting so many investors. There's the one who calls you at 3 a.m. So what that means is some investors, they hear an article here, they hear a gossip here about your industry, and they text you nonstop. They email you about everything. And, sometimes you just gotta say, hey, let me work, I don't have to answer all your texts or, emails. There's gotta be some boundaries. Just like, in any relationship, somebody shouldn't be calling you at 3 a.m. And then we're moving on. Oh, there's the one who wants to invest in your company because he has, one of his portfolio companies has similar company like you, and they want to basically marry this company with your company and make a lot of babies, And it's an acquisition, it's mergers and acquisition. It's not investing in your company. This is not fun. And then there's the one who's not over his ex. So what that means is this investor probably missed out on a really good company previously. And then now he wants to invest in your company, and he tells you all the things the other company is doing, and you want to copy him, Copy this company. And as an entrepreneur, we have too much ego and pride to be somebody's ex. So we move on. And there's the slow ones. I think all investors are very slow. They hear your pitch and they say oh, we'll call you tomorrow. And we wait tomorrow, day after tomorrow. We wait for a month. We wait for a year. And then there's a phone call. And they're like, hey, Ija, we're ready to invest in your company. And at this point, we're already bankrupt, We're a startup. We cannot survive for a year. So the mama's boy. I have no comment on this one, but so this is what they say. These investors say they are doing a due diligence on your company. So they're doing basic research, right? And I'm not sure what's taking forever, but I think they're just waiting for mama's approval, somebody's approval to say go ahead, right? So we don't know who's in charge for this type of investor and VC firms. Oh, and then the lazy ones. It's really funny. I think it should be in all type of relationships. You shouldn't be lazy, especially if you're a tech investor and you have 20 people who works for you, and you don't even did a simple Google search on your company. You go there and they're like, "Who are you?" So I think that's a red flag. You should not meet investors who's not serious about you. And then finally, you meet the right one. And when you meet the right one, it's such a cliche to say, but you know it, And he's there to support you. He believes in the vision. But most importantly, the right investor does not dictate the terms of the contract, right? He agrees with the things you want to do, and he's there to support. He does not dictate the terms of any of the company vision. And the most important thing is he also appreciates all the work you've done previously before he enters the company. Because I think in Mongolia and like in everywhere, right? A lot of the investors come in and they say like, everything so far you've been doing is wrong. And I think that's definitely not the right investor. So when you meet the right one, you know, because there's there to support you all the way. And then, so finally, I think finding the right investor is not easy. So is dating, so is anything in life. So I hope all of you entrepreneurs out there have fewer dates and meet the right one sooner than I did. And thank you very much.